Welcome to the September episode of ISSA Canada's Coffee Talk Forum. Today we have a special guest joining us from ISSA Canada's latest member affinity partner, Certn. Certn provides the smoothest candidate experience with an all-in-one platform and easily integrated API and accurate results fast. Certn returns criminal background checks, credit reports, reference checks, education verification, motor vehicle records, identity verification, and much more in mere minutes. Joining us today is Certn's Partnerships Manager, Sam McMullen, who will provide an outline of the services Certn provides and answer any questions you may have. So please utilize the chat feature. So without further ado, please welcome Sam McMullen.
What an intro.
Good morning to you. Good afternoon to everybody else.
Yes, it is morning for me, West Coast. Well, like Tanya said, I'm Sam. I'm the partnership manager at Certn, based out of Victoria, BC. So it is definitely the rainy season here for the next, for sure, 6 months. So that's going to be quite exciting here. I'll start it off with, I'll tell us the story about Certn and how it came to be. And then Tanya gave me some great speaking points of what everyone would like to know about Certn and maybe about the pricing and the reliability of the product. So dating back to 2016, Certn was created by three best friends. They were all working together at another company, and they found a big pain point in the property management business. So okay, let's shift. Let's create our own business. And they created a business to do with tenant screening. And they met with all these tenants, these property managers, and they found that the property managers said that, hey, we kind of already have this product, but do you know what really is a pain is background checks. Like no one does it properly, no one does it right. It's always a black mark on our onboarding process. So if you guys can figure that out, then that'd be unbelievable. So that's when the shift came into be in 2017/2018, and we released our first RCMP product in 2019. So we are a Canadian startup. I was the 20th employee hired, and we're now at 100 and around 150 employees. So background checks are always looked upon as like if you're being onboarded or being hired, that it's a tough process. I never want to do it. Does this mean I'm not going to get hired because my background check doesn't come through? How long does it take? Usually it takes like that 5 to 7 business days. And we found candidates actually leaving that onboarding process to being hired somewhere else because the onboarding process was faster, it was easier, and for employers it was less expensive. So that's where Certn kind of came to be, and that's where we really grew within Canada. Within Canada, we are fast, friendly, and comprehensive. So what that means is that our background checks come back within 15 minutes. So by the time the candidate fills out that background check report, as soon as they click submit, it takes 15 minutes for that report fully completed to come back into the employer, and it comes back into the dashboard. So how we've done that is we've partnered with police agencies and actually plug into the API. So it's computers talking to computers as opposed to you filling out a PDF platform, PDF document, put it on the top of a pile, and then the police agency getting to it within that week. It's just computers talking to computers. And a great way to look at it is like ordering an Uber. So when you order an Uber, you send it out to thousands of drivers out there. The first driver to say yes, then they come pick you up. And that's why Uber's so fast. Well, it's this very same thing with background checks where we submit it, and it's the first police officer that's on duty that sees it on their computer screen. They click yes, and then it comes right back to Certn. So it's a very similar process on that front. And with looking at the speed of it, and then how did we grow within the pandemic? How do we grow so fast within the virtual world per se, and moving into a remote hybrid situation? And a big part of that was One ID. So we call it One ID. It's our ID verification. And with ID verification, we are able to verify the candidate's identity through their mobile device or desktop. So if anyone's ever done a background check, usually you have to, by the time you get to the end, you have to verify your identity. You fill out 5 credit questions that you should only know. What loan is your car with? What loan is where's your mortgage with? How much money is left on your mortgage? Stuff like that, where you should only know those answers. Now, the thing is, a lot of people, I mean, when I got hired at Certn, I failed my credit questions because they're dated back 2 years or 6 years or 7 years or 8 years. And sometimes you don't remember. So I actually ended up failing mine, and the majority, I wouldn't say majority, but I'd say about 50% do when it comes down to answering those credit questions. So the old process is that you go down to a post office, you bring your ID, you might have to do fingerprints, you bring your passport, and you have to wait in line. And obviously during the pandemic, that wasn't really a thing that we were able to do. So being able to hire someone virtually from anywhere, from their house, from anywhere in the world, has been a huge sticking point for us. And we are global. So looking at being able to run checks in 200 plus countries, yes, Canada is our niche, but we are heavily within the United States, and we are expanding in the UK, Australia, and overseas. So that's where the speed comes into play. Then also where the verification of online comes into play, and being able to do it so seamlessly and so automated. And that's what everyone wants to do. Is it takes a candidate 3 minutes to fill out our process, and I can do a quick demo on what that looks like. And it's you click through your basic information, first name, last name, birth date. SIN number is optional for the most part, and just address information. Then it's your 9-year-old ground can get through it within 3 minutes, because our average is about 2 minutes for a candidate to get through our process. So with all that in place, we are now having more candidates come through at the same time. Employers can send a background check to 100 employees at the same time if they want to. It's a batch program where you just type in their email, you send that out, and then it all comes back into your platform. It's easily tracked within your platform. You can toggle through if it's in progress, if it's completed, if it needs reviewing, anything along those lines. It's all customized to yourself. And then with our open API, if you want to get into the nitty-gritty of integrations, our API is very, very flexible to actually integrate into the back end of websites. So it can actually look like your background check, that you're sending to your candidates, because a lot of candidates might think that, oh, I thought I was being hired for Sam's company, but why am I getting a background check from Certn? Like, who's Certn? So that's why we have like a white labeling option where your logo, your branding, and everything is on there. So it shows that you're building trust with that candidate. And that's a big sticking point for us, is that we're trying to build trust, and we are building trust with the communities that are using background checks, and with employers that are using the background check service, where we build trust for organizations to have information to use during that onboarding process. And I think a big question that we always get is that, are background checks determining whether they get hired or not? No, they're not. All we do is we provide the information for the employer to make the decision. We are not making decisions for organizations. We're not making decisions for companies. We are not the last dance where this person's not hired because we're not a part of that onboarding process. We're not a part about that culture interview. We don't know how good of a fit this candidate will be. We just know what the report would say. And that's what we give the information to.
Sam, from an employer's point of view, what kind of packages are available, like in terms of the searches that are available? How do the employers set up their accounts online?
Absolutely. So it's very easy to set up your account online. All it is an email and a password. And then once you get into it, you can actually, I'll share my screen here. The host is disabled the screen sharing.
That's me. Hold on.
That's I looked it up. It's the KPMG Inaugural Canadian Tech Innovator Award.
There we go.
So congratulations on that.
Thank you. I know our CEO did a speaking event there, and it turned in from being a speaking event to turning into being a client. So it was best of both worlds there.
Client, yeah.
Okay, Sam, I think you can go now.
Perfect. Oh, why is that so weird? Okay, so
Perfect.
this is we call it a la carte. So it's very much like we talked about, being very customized to what you want to do. So if you're a transportation company, then obviously if you're hiring for a driver, you want to have a motor vehicle record check. But you could be working at a transportation company, but when you're not on the vehicle, so you probably don't need a motor vehicle record check. So then you can create packages through the Certn application that is specific to that role. So you can have a C-level package where it's like a more in-depth education verification, employment verification, reference checks. If it's an entry-level position, you're probably just looking at like a criminal record check. You probably maybe a credit check if you're working at a bank, or if you want to do a little bit more security, and like a one ID. So looking at our a la carte, so this is what we have. So it goes through US international employment. So then what you can do is you just click and you click what you want to look for. It just adds to the cart, right? So if you want to do a one ID, instant employment verification, and credit check, then it comes up to here. And you can save this as a package. And then now that package is saved. And then when you want to go to screen, say 10 new drivers for a transportation company, then that's when you go in and you click your package. So you don't need to click every single time you come in. You can make it really, really seamless for yourself and really seamless for your hiring managers of what you want to look at. Is that what you're looking for, Tanja?
Yes. Yeah.
Sam,
that kind of thing. And just what kind of packages, like in terms of monetary, like, is it a cost per check? Does the cost vary from all the different checks that are available?
Yeah, absolutely. So the cost is volume based. So it's a conversation. So there's no specific package for, oh, you're in retail. Here's your package. Oh, you're in the cleaning service. Here's your package. That's by no means what it is. It's more of a conversation with our sales team of, okay, what type of volume are you doing? What kind of checks will you be doing? And then from there, that's when that price starts to alter. And that's when we work together on what the best price is for both sides. And it should be a conversation on what that looks like. Now, for each individual one, these are just prices that are just filled in there, but our background checks are, I don't want to say, so cheap is a really hard word to say, but we are one of the least expensive background check vendors by 20%, if not more, every single time. We built everything under our roof. We own all of our software, and that's one of the reasons why we can do that.
It's very important, Sam, to like that package that you're looking at there, Tanya. So Sam demonstrated the package from a point of view where, the potential employer or the employer is paying for this themselves, right? So they have a direct relationship. And when I originally introduced ISSA to Certn, it's because we had developed a relationship and they had literally just launched. So first of all, congratulations. I mean, it was probably 9 of you. And then now there's 150. But since we started, you probably hired 10 more, right?
Yeah.
So
exactly.
It's been a lot. And I just want to comment on that because I think what I have to say will be helpful. But I just want to start by saying thank you, Sam. I can personally attest to the fact that the product that you offer is outstanding and super useful to my company. And we've been putting a lot of building blocks in place for a national launch ourselves. And we did get stalled because of the pandemic, but we're ready to launch. And Certn is integral to what's happening with us. So I do want to urge the other house cleaning companies that are watching this, and not just the residential side, but obviously some of the larger institutional, that I can speak very highly for Certn, and not just from point of view on how the product works itself, but like the people in the company, like their brand values. It's a company that we like being aligned with. Now, with that said, so we did it this way as well. So basically, we chose certain a la carte options. We negotiated our price based on the volume and whatnot. And what would happen is we built the link right into our LMS platform called Transunion. And Judith is familiar with Transunion. She uses it as well. So what would happen is during the onboarding process, as we led them through onboarding, they would click a link, they'd go to a co-branded page, and then what they do, they'd go in and they basically self-onboard. And what was beautiful for us is that it reduced our human resource costs big time, because obviously we didn't have to physically manage it, right? We didn't have to manage, like, has this come in, has this not come in? And then, of course, 15 minutes later, it would come in and we'd see it on our dashboard. They would also get a copy as well for their own records that they could use. And with their chat feature, they have omni-channel support, right? So you can, like, if you're having maybe something it's 24 hours has passed and that particular background check hasn't been approved or come through, like you can just chat with the support agent and they're very responsive. But we did change, and this is something I wanted to mention, is that we made it so that it's actually it's paid for by the people who apply with us. Because basically the way it works in our industry is that, there's a funnel and a large volume of people who come through, and not everyone makes it to the end. There's a high turnover rate in the house cleaning industry, right? Yeah. Our margins in the house cleaning industry are razor sharp versus maybe if you're cleaning a lot of airports, you can afford to pay for that on the back, like as an employer, right? Knowing that the turnover ratio is okay and it works with your margins. But with us, it's very costly. So what happens is that, first of all, we make it clear to them that, look, you don't have to use Certn. You can go to a local RCMP detachment. We let them know it has to be CPIC and whatnot, and the Canadian Police Information Center. But what we do is say, but what we can tell you is that these people are going to turn it around in 15 minutes on average, and the price points are really competitive. But we make it very clear that, hey, you can go wherever you want, and here's some options. And invariably, every time they click our link for Certn, they go in and they do the exact same process, but then they pay for it. But what's nice is that one goes to them and one goes to us. So we know where they stand, they know where they stand, and then they actually upload their own police records check during the next stage of the onboarding for us. So it really works when you are, like the last time we done a big launch, we had like 7,000 applications and hired 500 people before this whole pandemic went down. Well, guess what? That would be a major cost to us, knowing that of that 500, only 40 are going to be left standing.
Yeah.
So they appreciate getting that copy themselves, and they can use that for other employment opportunities. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to throw that out there because I think that's a really key point for smaller cleaning businesses.
Sure.
That's a great point, Mark. You can really choose, like, if it's the employer paying or the candidate paying, and it's literally just a button within a platform that we can do. It's quite easy and it's quite seamless. So that's a great point. And looking at the cost of it's tough to show what the cost is if you're doing it for your job or like all the manual processes you do the day in, day out. Well, that's costing the company money because it's costing the salary. But it's almost, it's like, is it costing us money because we're already paying this employee? But yes, it is, because the manual processes that are happening and the manual tracking and maybe human error could happen as well. And with background checks and onboarding, human errors, you want to eliminate those as much as possible to get to 100% no errors, because obviously it's a very classified type of an onboarding with background checks, and then if they want to get hired, so you don't want to have an excuse of a human error, and that's when that flow and that automation comes into play when hiring 500, 700, 1,000 employees throughout the year. You want to have that as quick as possible and at the best prices possible, and that's definitely where we want to stand. And like Mark said, we take a lot of initiative to work with our clients. Our platform is pretty much built from our clients. And I think that's in a majority of startups. I think that it's more of a conversation of like, what would you like to see? And then we build it. But it's always been a conversation, and it's always been, let's work together. You're kind of a part of the team as opposed to just another dollar value within our revenue stream. It's let's work together. Let's have that communication. What would you like to see from Certn? And then we go from there of what that looks like within our pipeline. Can we fit within our pipeline, or is it already there? Mm-hmm. And we have a timeline to present that data.
Sam, you speak to an important factor as well. So we do tend to get in the house cleaning industry a lot of people who've immigrated to Canada. So you get permanent residents and people that are working their way towards citizenship or just gained citizenship. And your ability for, excuse my newfound accent there now, your ability to be able to do international checks is really, really important for us. Yeah. And also your ability to do credit checks is important, because we're moving from a independent contractor based model to an actual franchise model. And of course, being able to do credit checks so easily is really, really important, and cost effectively is important for us. So we're really excited about those two features, and possibly you might be able to educate the audience on that a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So for the credit checks, it's instant. So we use we're partnered with Equifax. It comes through Equifax, and within the reporting, I could show you here. It actually comes back with a. So this is our dashboard, and this is everyone that's ever filled a background check out. Obviously, this is their demo application, so it's nice and easy. It's when I first got hired, before I get into the credit checks, when I first got hired, I thought this was the norm. This is not the look of this dashboard is definitely not the norm of what you usually see of yes, there have been lots of players in the background check industry for many, many years, but I don't want to say obsolete, but it's definitely outdated type of a platform and how you manage that, how you toggle through it, and what that user experience looks like on the hiring manager side. So this is definitely a big plus for us. So we'll go here. Oh, there we go. Completed. Oh, there's me. One ID. I'll just refresh this. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, well, Sam was just doing that. You'll notice that he had a button on the end there, and it like had a green button. It said "Clear" (CLR). I find that super useful because we do dig deep into the reports that come to us, but like that initial clear button, 99.9% chance if you got a clear button there that you can take that to the bank and they're okay. Just to give you maybe get someone from one stage of the onboarding to the next stage.
Absolutely. And so here's an example of what our report would look like. So it gives you a credit score and like what that looks like. So your score would be 584. That's a C on our report. And we have a PDF document that shows how you take in this information. What does this C mean? What does a 599 to 550 mean? We do have a very digestible PDF that shows how to read credit reports. But it gives you a lot of details within this report. And obviously it's partnered with Equifax and it comes back instantly. So this is an instant check. It comes back right away. Right back to the Certn platform.
Sam, are you guys looking at eventually partnering with Transunion as well? Because there's two major reporting agencies in Canada, Equifax and Transunion, and it is some people only report to one. So there are some use cases where people will report to Transunion and not to Equifax. Is that something that is in discussion for in the future? How does that you think that'll play out?
So if I'm being completely honest, that might be above my pay grade. But that's probably I would assume Andrew, our CEO, is talking with TransUnion and looking at what that looks like and what that would mean to get it into, and then talking with our product team and looking at what that means to get that into our product timelines.
Yeah, okay. Because for us, obviously, knowing that it's only Equifax, we would have to get a separate credit check done because you would need both reporting agencies depending on what the credit check is being done for, right?
Absolutely.
Again, for us with franchising, there's a lot of legalities to it, and we need to definitely do our due diligence. So that'll be interesting to kind of maybe hear back from you on our next meeting and
Absolutely.
see how after you talk to Andrew or whatever.
Yeah, I'll make a note of that, and I'll definitely let Tangent know to spread to the membership, and then or I can bring it up during our next meeting for sure.
So Sam, when it comes to turnaround time, there is the question about accuracy of the checks and how can you do a police check in 15 minutes? Can you talk about like how accurate are the searches? What databases are searched? And how long does it actually take for a candidate to get through all the questions?
Yeah, absolutely. So accuracy is obviously it's a big if you're not accurate as a background check company, you're not going to last very long, for sure. So accuracy is a huge thing, and okay, yeah, how can that happen within 15 minutes? Canada is very, very simple because, and I love that about Canada. It's the RCMP. So the big blanket of the RCMP goes over all of Canada. So if you plug into that system, well, that's where all the information lies. That's where everything. If you fill out a PDF piece of paper, you put it onto a pile, and that police agency grabs it. Well, they're going to check that database. We just take that middleman out, and we directly link into the database. So we go in and we scan for the person from the data that we collect during the filling out the application, and that spits back everything about that candidate back into Certn, and if it's completed, cleared, or needs review. And that's why it can be so fast, is because it's just computers talking to computers, as opposed to having that middleman or middle person in the way of what that timeline would look like.
It's important to note that just with one of the comments you made, just so our membership on the other side of ISSA membership, it's really important to look into this with Certn, because say, for example, like our home office is in Newfoundland, Labrador, so St. John's is the capital, right?
Yep.
So, and it's always rainy season here too, buddy. So I feel you. The only city that gets more rain than us is Abbotsford, and they only get like 11 more millimeters. So, so if we go to the Royal Newfoundland Constabulary and we get a police records check, that doesn't necessarily link into the CPIC, which is the RCMP, right? The Canadian Police Information Center. So like now, for example, if you go say to the police force in Waterloo, okay, they very well white. So what happens is that when we get the initial clearance from Sam's team saying this looks good, there's also another document attached that is the actual police records check that actually has a stamp from say Waterloo or whatever police force. And it could be different police forces depending on who picked it up first, right? Because they get remunerated for it, and there's a partnership there. So the thing is that if it's Waterloo, well, Waterloo is connected to CPIC. So if I was to walk in off the street, the regional police force in Waterloo, I'd get a CPIC police. But if I was to walk in off the street in say like maybe Calgary, whatever your police force is, I think it's just called Calgary Police, I think, or in whatever part of Toronto you're in. I don't know if it's Toronto Regional or OPP, but regardless, those police record checks that are local may not be national. And we have to remember that people travel. So you can technically have someone in Saskatchewan that is got a criminal background, and then they come and apply with you in Newfoundland, and they know that if I supply a local records check, they're not going to know that I have this background. So like I really want to get that across to the ISSA members, just in case it's something Sam may not have touched on. It's one of the value points that Certn brings to the table.
So Sam, like with that said, like from the experience that I've had with background checks, if you have an individual whose name is flagged on the database and it has to go to a next level, i.e. fingerprints, like do you guys deal in that, or is that a candidate issue? Like how is that tackled?
So for the fingerprints, that's when ID verification comes into play. And that's where our OneID eliminates that for our candidates. So having to go into a post office and bring your 2 pieces of ID and your fingerprints, that's what the OneID eliminates, where, okay, you failed your credit questions. Okay, now what we do for OneID is you take a picture of the front and back of your license. It scans all the data points, scans the barcode, then you take a selfie. And it 3D scans your face, kind of like open up your iPhone, if everyone has iPhones, I assume. Or I don't know if Samsung does it as well. Or Android. Sorry, no, I shouldn't make that assumption.
Who uses iPhones?
But yeah, it's like open up your, it's 3D scans your face, and then that goes into your profile, and your picture of your front and back of your license and your selfie will live within that report that the credit report that I showed you. That would be at the bottom that shows your OneID being completed. And then, like Mark said, there's also that toggle to have that RCMP report from what police agency it came from.
Okay. So now for every police check that is completed for a specific member employer, is there, like, do they have an account where all of these are stored so that they can easily access?
Yeah, so the dashboard that I showed you at the start, or before I showed you the credit report there, that dashboard lists all candidates that have come through your organization. So you can toggle, you can search for email addresses, you can search for completed, you can search for partial completed, you can search for review. You can search for really anything you wish to find what you were looking for. Obviously, if you're looking for a specific candidate, you probably just copy and paste their email address into the search bar, and then their report would come up. And then they would just live within Certn for sure. Yeah. So it's very easy to toggle through of what information you want to find within the Certn platform.
Sam, can you speak to so like for example, Air Canada is one of your customers. At least it was in 2019 when we first met, just before this whole pandemic thing, right? And that's a major customer. That's big numbers, big employer in Canada. And one of the value points that I particularly love about Certn is that it gives and a lot of people like to use the term small business. Well, small businesses have like 50 employees. Like most of us are not small businesses. We're micro businesses. Like we're 1 to 9 people, or even nano businesses, right? And what I like about Certn, or love, I should say, is that they give nano and micro businesses the same amount of power as an Air Canada. And when you're, like you said, trying to build a sense of trust with the applicant, because keep in mind, right, it's really hard to get great people and you want to be the employer of choice, right? And it's not one thing you can do that makes you the employer of choice. It's dynamically a collection of things that you do. So when you're dealing with a company as amazing as Certn, and you can give that look and feel of a national enterprise like Air Canada, that's really powerful. So I just, the strategy and where Certn is trying to go in America, in Canada, and the different markets you're trying to break into. But maybe you could speak a little bit more specifically towards that micro business and nano business market, and where you guys see that heading and how you treat that, because that's where a lot of the people that are going to be watching this in the thousands later, that's what they're going to want to know. This is wonderful, but I'm not Air Canada. I mean, maybe you could speak a little bit on that, Sam?
Yeah.
Yes, for sure. So that's a great point. So with Certn, so there's Certn, which is our enterprise business, and then we have Certn Lime, which is our SMB, and then we have our MyCRC, which is our B2C. So MyCRC is out of this equation. So what Certn Lime does is, if you are a startup or a small business and you want to hire maybe 3 or 4 people a year, maybe 10, what that does is it's an automated service where you can be onboarded by yourself through online, and it's prepaid. So you put your credit card in, and it automatically charges that credit card for your 3 to 5 employees that year, and that gives that small business like that automation that they're looking for. Now, if you continue to grow and you want to get into more of like that in-depth check, and you want to get into more of like the employment and education verification, okay, now it's a toggle of a button, we shift you into Certn, and now you have the power like an Air Canada would, where you have every check under the sun. And that's the big thing that we want to do as well, is we give you every check. It's completely up to you what you want to check. Here's every check we have. Whereas through conversations, I've heard that when you get signed from one of our competitors, you get, hey, I want to do CRC credit check, and that's it. Okay, here you go. It's on your account. And if you want to add anything, you have to call support to get that added to your account. So we give you absolutely everything that you want to check, and it's up to you what you want to do. So Certn Lime, looking at it like more of like that prepaid, automated, you don't want to really worry about the background check section at all. Maybe you're the HR manager, the hiring manager, and also looking after the office manager, and like you have like many different roles. You don't want to really be focusing on hiring or the background check process the whole day. So that's where the automated process comes into play. Judith.
Yeah, so very nice to meet you. And it's over Zoom, and it's very informational. So I actually just wanted to ask the question, because I think when somebody's going to watch this as a small cleaning company, they're going to wonder, like, maybe because they don't have an HR department or anything. It's somebody's running a business. So can you just maybe explain why would somebody need a background check, and how does it protect you as a company? We all know the answer to that, but some people might not. So
yeah.
Absolutely. So the big thing with the background check industry is are we compliant? Are you compliant? And in the tech industry, you need to be compliant. You have to be. So background checks are actually a mandatory thing to be SOC 2, SOC 3 compliant. And what that is just, it shows that your tech stack is safe, and it's actual mandatory thing. So that's where we see a lot of background checks come through within the cleaning service, and how important it is. Like I said before, we provide information, and it doesn't necessarily protect an organization of who you're hiring, because someone could have a DUI on their background check, and you can still hire them because that's your discretion. It's your job to hire your employees, right?
Mhm.
But if I'm an employee and I know every single person that I'm working with has had a background check, I feel great. I feel safe. I've trust in my organization that we're doing the right things. And that's a big message that we're trying to portray within the social platforms and with online and blogs, is we're building trust. We're building trust with organizations. Hey, ISSA Canada and Certn, we build trust together because yes, the talent is scarce right now. It's a candidate's world. The stats are out there. Employers are trying to find workers and they're not there. So
Sam,
what makes
as well too, legally it's important, Sam. And this never gets touched on, and I know you'll agree with me, but we actually had an accusation of theft happen just recently, okay? And if you own a cleaning company, it's coming. It's coming. And if you've had a cleaning company for more than 5 years, it's been multiple times, right? And there's three different things that could have happened. One, someone's trying to extort something from your company by claiming something was stolen. Two, someone really thinks something was stolen from their home and can't really fathom that it might be from someone within their own family. And three, well, somebody stole something. And of course, the process we use is we immediately take that and we make a police report, and we actually file a police report immediately. Now, when we do that, we let the consumer know that, okay, first of all, we use an internationally trusted background check company, and we link to you. We want them to know that, right? And then two, we say, when they onboard with us, contractually with a contract, they sign off that one, they're not currently under charges. Two, they've never been convicted of a crime. Then that gets backed up as far as being convicted of a crime, not under charges, because that's a different thing, right? But they, with a certain check, right? Now, we also require them to do a yearly check. And two things. One is that it's our responsibility as employers, even if we're nano businesses or micro businesses, to mitigate risk. So we have to mitigate our risk. And if we don't get criminal background checks, what happens is that if there was a theft, okay, we could be civilly responsible, which means they can sue our company. And if you're a sole proprietorship, that's you personally, right? And then of course, so the thing is that we have to be able to show that, look, we've mitigated against risk as much as humanly possible. Now, we cannot eliminate risk. No one can do that, right? Someone may still steal from you, but we mitigate against that. And what that does is that protects you from a legal perspective. And that's really important for micro and nano businesses because they can't withstand a lawsuit, even if they win. It's just, they don't have the cash flow. Now, the second thing I'm hoping you can talk upon, and that you may finish talking about what Judith said, is social media, because you spoke a little about social media just then. And it's something that I want to bring to light that Certn offers that is remarkable. They actually offer the a la carte add-on when you build your package for a social media check. And it actually can go a complete social media check. Are you possibly wanting to speak on that, Sam?
Yeah, absolutely. So like you said, Mark, I can't say enough. It's building that trust. So if I'm someone that wants to get my house clean and I see that relationship, it's like, you know what? They're doing things right. I want to work with them. Let's bring them on board. And it gives you that competitive edge as well. Now for the social media check is what we call it's our soft check. So what this does is it scans all public databases, and it's 200,000 plus databases instantly. And what that brings to you is if you're in the press for any negative press, if you are in the paper for a hit and run and nothing kind of came of it on your criminal record check, but you're within the press, that shows up. Your social media links show up. So an employer can click on the links and go to their platform. If they are private, they're private, and it just takes you to their page, but they'll be private. So there's not a lot you can see there because there is obviously that security issue as well for privacy with people using social media platforms. And that is one of our most popular checks, I would say, because it's instant and it scans everything public knowledge, public based. Sex offender list is on there as well. So if you've been on the sex offender list, that will show up. We have a sheet that shows what it all checks. I mean, I can give you the main ones, but let's see here. For One ID, instant verify. So I can give you the main ones after this meeting of what that looks like. I don't think I want to share 200,000 plus databases with all of you, but I can show you what that looks like.
And I can say that it's not expensive as far as the add-on. Sam,
it's $10.
So with regards to auto check, now this is something that you may or may not have. We haven't delved into it yet, but it's something that I was planning on bringing to your attention privately, but why not here? So again, mitigating against risk, okay? So someone could come under criminal charges, get convicted, and we don't have an updated criminal records check that alerts us to that. So two things. One, will you consider creating some sort of auto check? So let's say, for example, we pay for that initial check with that person, they're still in our database, okay? Well, once per quarter, we pay a fee, and for that, you'll go in and once per quarter and do an auto check and alert us. Or can your system and your amazing team of 160 people build out something where we choose the frequency? So it's like, okay, we want this automatically to be redone on a yearly basis. So we don't have to go in and do it ourselves manually. And then you just bill us automatically, or however the payment goes, notify the applicant if it's on their end to pay, hey, it's your time again. Now, do you have something in place like that? And if not, would you kindly bring that to your amazing team and ask them if they would make that happen? Because I think that would be a good feature.
That's a great point, Mark. And it's not something we do right now, but I will bring it to the product team and to our leadership, because I think that's a great point of, okay, well, my background check was cleared 5 years ago. Does that mean I'm still not a criminal? Hopefully, obviously, yeah. but you never know. You never know. And
well, the automation is what makes it work, Sam. So the thing is that, well, you know, so like if we know that we've clicked that with you, we've also offboarded legal liability to you too, right? Because now if we don't go in every quarter or every year and redo that background check, then we know that we signed on with you. And if your system failed to deliver, well, then now, you know, we can look at you and say, okay, like we depended on you. And, you know, it's a really great feature, I think, that you guys would be capable of doing, obviously, because tech-wise, you're a top 50 up-and-comer tech company in the United States and Canada right now.
Listening for us.
Judith, did you want to add any other questions?
No, I'm good. I just really wanted to emphasize for some of our members who are smaller and maybe they are not using this type of service or any kind of service, what the importance it is. Because for me, what resonated, which is really important, that I want to hire, obviously I hire for values, one, and I really do think that the background check is such a crucial part of the values, because one for me personally is honesty, right? And we just have to be honest about everything. Yeah. And
absolutely.
That's what sometimes the background check comes back different.
Yeah. No, it's all about that transparency, right? And I know, looking at company culture wise, our big message from C-level down is transparent. Anyone can ask any question, anyone can have a voice. Well, having that transparency, you understand where everything is, how everything sits, and being transparent with your candidate or with your employees and employers. And it's that two-way street. I think that maybe a few years back, decades back, where it's like, I'm the employer, you're the employee, you do whatever I say. Now it's more of a conversation based, and you want to have that trust coming into the workplace and being able to know that your voice does matter, and that transparency started from the beginning. And it really sets you up for a great company culture. And you'll find, I think, that more candidates are coming through because it's word of mouth obviously spreads. And then if you're posting of building trust with Certn and your company, then it just spreads through like wildfire from there.
Sam, it also speaks to the fact that, look, for us, we explicitly in our brand values, our customers are not just the consumer of our services, but our customers are the provider of our services. And the user friendliness and allowing them an avenue, not forcing them, because they can go to the local RCMP detachment if they so choose, but giving them an avenue that is so user friendly is us thinking about the customer and making their life easier, right? Sam, I do want to say one final thing is that just bear with me for a second. I have someone else in my office. So sorry about that. Volume is a little high. So what I wanted to say was, like, so at this point in my trajectory, okay, at 48 years old, about to launch a national enterprise and put it all on the line, the companies that I choose to work with, it's not just about their offerings, it's about who they are, right? And I'm not talking about, having, liberal views or conservative views or whatever. I'm talking more about the point of, do I know, like, and trust this company? And I just want to take a second to say that when we onboarded with this company, it was very early in their trajectory. I wasn't aware they were brand new because they didn't, if they were like a swan paddling hard under the water, I didn't see it. But what I can tell you is that we got hit real hard by the pandemic, okay? We had a snowmageddon, 100 centimeters in one day, shut us down. We took a major financial loss, over $50,000 in a week there. We had a catastrophic software failure, right? That cost us to lose 100. And then, of course, we got shut down legally. And Certn did not hesitate in standing by my company during that time. And they had full right to say, hey, you have an invoice, let's get this paid, and whatever action they want to take. But they completely said, hey, we got you. And like, that means everything. And I think when you're choosing a company to do business with, it's not just about the product offering, it's about the brand values. And you obviously, I can attest to the fact that as a customer of yours since the beginning, and a small customer in the big scheme of some of your larger customers, that without question, I've always felt that my voice is heard. And I think that is something that must ring true on both sides, your actual internal brand values and on your external brand values. And I want to compliment you on that. And I also want to thank you on that.
Thank you, Mark. We really appreciate
That's
it.
great. Well, that brings us to the end of this session. I thank you very much, Sam, for your time. Mark, Judith, thank you for your input. We'll be back again in October for the next session. Thanks very much,
job,
everybody.
Sam. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.